action exploration team finds something fit for the X-Files during an expedition in the Baltic Sea. The team captured this sonar image of a circular object about 300 feet down on the sea floor.
Tensions in the Baltic Sea are rising as Russia and NATO hold military drills on opposite sides. But beneath those same waters, something far stranger has been waiting for years. Around 92 meters below the surface lies a massive disc-shaped object, 60 meters wide and almost too perfectly shaped to be natural.
I get goosebumps all over my body. I've never ever seen anything like that.
Every time divers approach, their equipment fails, and a long runway-like formation leads directly to it. For over a decade, scientists have debated what it could be.
This is actually very interesting, and I think we found it. This is exactly what we're looking for.
Now, new AI scans suggest it might not be human at all. The shocking discovery of the anomaly. It was June 2011, and the Baltic Sea was calm and gray. Two Swedish explorers, Peter Lindberg and Dennis Asberg, were on board a small research vessel, scanning the seabed with high-resolution sonar. Their company, Ocean X, was on a mission to locate a sunken ship in the northern Baltic Sea, be it lost champagne cargo, old treasure, or anything valuable buried beneath the waves. The sonar swept across the murky depths as it always did, but then they stumbled upon something that would puzzle scientists for more than a decade. What appeared on the sonar screen was a near-perfect circle, roughly 60 meters wide. It was roughly 3 to 4 meters thick and about twice the size of a football field. The image showed clear edges, a dome-like top, and sharp angles that didn't match any known natural formations. It lay about 90 meters below the surface, resting in a cold, dark silence. As the team studied the sonar feed, they noticed something even stranger. A long, straight track leading directly to the object, stretching hundreds of meters across the seabed. It looked like a runway, or a path carved deliberately into the ocean floor. That detail didn't make sense. Nothing in nature creates straight, even lines like that. Certainly not under the sea. Lindberg and Asberg stared at the screen, unsure what they were looking at. It was too symmetrical to be a random pile of rocks, too large to be a piece of wreckage. Whatever it was, it didn't belong there. After returning home, Asberg shared the data with other marine experts around the world. He said they were just as puzzled as his own team. None of them had seen anything quite like it. Unsure what to make of their findings, Asberg decided to go public. He spoke to a major Swedish newspaper, providing the sonar images and explaining how the discovery happened. The next day, the story exploded. Within hours, he was being contacted by international news outlets, TV stations, and radio programs, all asking the same question: what was this thing at the bottom of the Baltic Sea? Media outlets from different countries picked up the story. Television networks, online forums, and news sites were filled with debates and theories. The structure was soon called the Baltic Sea Anomaly, and its symmetry and patterns led to comparisons with spacecraft, ancient architecture, and even lost cities. Scientists and journalists also rushed to make sense of it. Some experts dismissed it quickly, saying it was just another underwater rock formation shaped by glaciers during the last ice age, but others weren't so certain. The sonar images showed geometric outlines and defined ridges, features that nature rarely produces on her own. Those who examined the first images noted how the object's shape resembled a spacecraft from a science fiction film, round, disc-like, with structural details that seemed engineered rather than eroded. The comparisons to the Millennium Falcon became popular, but the mystery went far beyond appearances. If this object had once stood above the surface, as some researchers speculated, what kind of event could have brought it down here? And why did it appear to be resting on top of the seabed, instead of buried beneath layers of sediment like most ancient formations? Disturbing failure of electronic equipment. The Ocean X team returned to the site of the Baltic Sea anomaly a few weeks after their first discovery, determined to learn more. This time, they brought a remotely operated vehicle, or ROV.
ROV, to be able to measure the temperature and the depth of all the operation of the ROV.
Hoping to capture clearer images and maybe even collect some samples. But as the ROV descended and neared the object, something unusual happened. Peter Lindberg later explained, that the compass on the ROV began behaving erratically. He said it was as if the compass had a life of its own. Combined with poor underwater visibility, this made it almost impossible for them to tell where the ROV was. To make things worse, the cable that connected the ROV to the surface kept snagging, adding to their difficulties. It wasn't the first time the team had experienced strange technical problems near the site. During the earlier expedition, they noticed that some of their electronic equipment stopped working as they got closer to the anomaly. One of the divers, Stefan Hogerborn, said that even their satellite phone and other devices would shut down directly above the structure. Once the boat moved about 200 meters away, everything started working again. The repeated pattern led the team to wonder whether some kind of magnetic or electromagnetic interference surrounded the site. Their next dive brought even more surprises. The divers reported seeing what looked like a staircase leading up the side of the formation and a perfectly round black hole descending into its body.
20 meters of depth, there is almost no light at all. At 40-50 meters, it's pitch black.
These features didn't seem to match any natural rock formations they had seen before. The team began to suspect that the structure might be more than just a geological curiosity. Later observations only deepened the mystery. Some divers said they saw multiple right angles and geometric shapes, features rarely found in nature. Others noticed a large circular opening on the top of the structure that looked almost deliberately carved.
The most peculiar thing, or the strangest thing, was a hole.
The divers agreed that it didn't resemble anything naturally formed on the seabed. Another detail that caught their attention was a collection of stones sitting on top of the anomaly. One diver described them as being arranged in a circular pattern, as if placed there intentionally. He questioned how such a precise formation could occur naturally, especially at that depth. Each visit to the site raised more questions than answers. The technical problems continued: malfunctioning instruments, erratic navigation systems, and unexplained power failures. These recurring issues made it difficult to gather consistent data, and even harder to form clear conclusions about what they were looking at. The Ocean X team tried to stay grounded in science despite all the attention. They focused on collecting evidence, analyzing data, and inviting experts from various fields to review their findings. But the absence of a clear explanation kept the mystery alive. A lot of questions remained unanswered. How Lindberg and Asberg attempted to solve the mystery. Dennis Asberg was once featured in an interview in which it was noted that while his team had collected material from around the anomaly's site, they had not yet managed to extract anything directly from the object itself. Asberg confirmed this. He said that during their first dive, one of their divers, Stefan Hogborn, tried to take samples from the structure but couldn't because the material was too hard. On their next expedition, Asberg said, they planned to attempt a core drilling to collect samples from within the structure, though he wasn't sure whether that would be possible. In the meantime, he explained, samples taken from the surrounding area had already been analyzed. Scientists found traces of dead organic material, but it came from stones that were lying on top of the object, not from the structure itself. He also mentioned signs that some of the material in the area had been exposed to extremely high temperatures, as if it had been burned or heated. When asked whether this suggested any kind of volcanic activity, Asberg said scientists in Sweden had ruled that the Baltic Sea has no known volcanic history, and there are no visible signs of volcanic formations anywhere near the site. However, they did find basalt rocks, a volcanic material, around the anomaly. Geologists suggested that the basalt might have been left behind during the melting period at the end of the last ice age, but Asberg pointed out something strange. The basalt was found only at the site of the anomaly, not in the surrounding seabed. The interviewer then brought up another underwater study led by Dr. Avi Loeb, who had discovered small spherical particles, known as spherules, while dredging the ocean floor near New Guinea, possibly linked to meteor impacts or spacecraft debris. He asked whether Asberg had found anything similar near the Baltic anomaly. Asberg said they had not found spherules, but they had discovered other unusual objects. He described one of these findings as a triangular structure with a circular hole in it, located near the main object. He said he found it only a few years ago after spending more hours reviewing recorded footage. As he analyzed the data more carefully, He began to notice more details that hadn't been seen before, and the triangle with a hole stood out as especially odd. When asked what it would take to finally solve the mystery, Asberg said the next step was to involve more scientists. He explained that while his team had gathered a great deal of data, they needed specialists with the right technical knowledge to properly interpret it. He said they were preparing for another expedition and were working to bring experienced researchers on board. With the right people and the right tools, he believed they could finally take the necessary core samples and perhaps uncover the true nature of the Baltic Sea anomaly. But did they really? Before the introduction of the AI that changed how the scientists saw the Baltic Sea anomaly, Peter and Dennis met geologist Falco Bruchert, who had over 30 years of experience studying rocks. When Falco watched the video footage, he noticed something that looked like a thick crust, with black material showing through cracks.
It looks like a crust.
Yeah.
It looks like a thick crust.
We have this black material shining through the cracks.
Peter thought it might just be mud, but Falco disagreed. He said the surface seemed soft, and that they needed a direct sample from the core of the object to know what was really underneath. Surface material alone, he warned, could be misleading. At that point, the main questions were whether glaciers had deposited the material and what exactly lay beneath it. Falco admitted that for now it could be almost anything, even joking that it might as well be the Millennium Falcon. But he stressed the need for more information before drawing conclusions. He said that Sweden's landscape had been reshaped by ice over thousands of years, and natural formations could easily appear machine-made. He also emphasized that no single field could explain everything. A geologist, biologist, or archaeologist might all see the same thing differently. To truly understand the anomaly, he said, they needed a holistic picture that brought together multiple scientific perspectives. Yet not everyone was convinced the explanation would be entirely geological. Klaus Svahn, a well-known journalist and chairman of UFO Sweden, also once offered his view on the anomaly. He said the oceans were still largely unexplored and could easily hide surprises. Admitting that it was possible something unusual, perhaps even artificial, had been resting on the seafloor for centuries, he pointed out that drilling down to check for any metallic material beneath the rock would be relatively simple and might settle the debate once and for all. For now, he said, speculation was all they had, but the mystery was worth pursuing. Peter and Dennis knew what they had to do next. To get definitive answers, they needed to perform a core drilling to see what was inside the object. But the operation would be enormous, one that could cost millions of euros. They began preparing for another expedition, but before they could proceed, something unexpected happened. Challenges and backlash faced by the scientists. Rumors began spreading online that the Baltic Sea anomaly was nothing more than a pile of rocks. One morning, Lindbergh woke up to see headlines from Fox News dismissing their discovery entirely.
Yeah, I get pissed off. I mean, wake up this morning and see this shit from Fox News.
The report, he said, came from Sweden and claimed to debunk their work. Peter Lindbergh was frustrated, saying that such misinformation made it much harder to attract sponsors or companies willing to support further research. Months passed and those rumors solidified into global belief. Most people now thought the Baltic anomaly had been fully explained, but Asberg refused to give up. He said that even though sponsors had pulled away and funding was drying up, he was still determined to find the truth, whatever it turned out to be. Driven by desperation, he began selling off their branded merchandise just to gather enough money for another expedition. He admitted that the struggle had been long and exhausting, and working on the project demanded more endurance than most people could imagine. But as they kept trying to raise funds, their efforts began to draw criticism. Some people accused Peter and Asberg of trying to profit from nothing, suggesting that the whole thing was a scam. Even fans who once believed in them started losing faith. Before long, the two men had become subjects of ridicule. Lindbergh joked bitterly when Asberg told him to get ready for another dive, reminding him that they couldn't even afford proper gear anymore. Still, the search for the underwater anomaly continued. Lindbergh, discouraged by repeated setbacks, started to pull away from the project. Asberg, however, refused to give up. That was when things took a darker turn. Asberg and his family began receiving threatening messages. One warned him about diving in winter, implying that accidents happen then. Another mentioned his children by name, hinting at harm. Asberg said he couldn't understand what he had done to deserve such intimidation. He was just trying to pursue a dream, not put anyone in danger. Despite the fear, occasional letters of support still reached them, from people who admired their persistence and believed that their work mattered. Encouraged by that thought, Dennis spent months repairing corrupted data from the earlier scans. After painstaking effort, he managed to reconstruct new, detailed images of the site and its surroundings. As a final attempt to bring clarity, Lindberg, Asberg, and Stefan reunited to review the new data. For the first time, they could see a wider view, not just the flat sonar scans they had stared at for years. The multi-beam reconstruction revealed something surprising. About 1,500 meters south of the original anomaly lay a small underwater mountain split by a canyon. From that canyon, a ridge stretched directly toward the main object. Another ridge appeared to connect to a second anomaly nearby, and its shape looked eerily similar to the first. They noticed two curved edges that, once the image noise was removed, formed an almost perfect straight line. The pattern didn't look entirely natural. It made Asberg wonder aloud whether the site might be some kind of impact zone. Stefan disagreed, thinking it might just be a coincidence of rock formations. Still, the resemblance was hard to ignore. Asberg confessed that after working on it for so long, his mind sometimes played tricks on him. He said that when he looked at the images, he couldn't help but see the outline of a crash site. Maybe it was wishful thinking. Maybe he was imagining things. But even if he never found the truth, he admitted one thing: he would never stop thinking about it. So, even as Dennis Asberg continued unraveling the mystery, the Baltic Sea anomaly remained a subject of heated debate. Then, more than a decade later, new technology has finally brought the story back into focus. The introduction of AI scan. In July 2025, Dennis Asberg made an announcement that reignited interest in the Baltic Sea anomaly.
Som ni vet, vi jobbar ju med det här med Baltic Sea Anomaly, det här föremålet i Östersjön. Men Beatrice jobbar också med det här att hitta liv och intelligens ute i rymden, och särskilt i närheten av jorden.
In the short clip shared online, Asberg admitted that he was at a loss for words, a rare reaction from someone who has spent years studying the site. He did not give full details about what had happened, but his tone suggested that something significant had recently been uncovered. Asberg has been working closely with Dr. Beatrice Villarroel, an astronomer known for her studies on the possibility of extraterrestrial life. Dr. Villarroel's background in astronomy and her research on non-human intelligence bring a scientific dimension that many believe the investigation had been missing. Some think her approach, combining astronomy, data science, and deep-sea imaging, might have revealed patterns that were invisible to traditional exploration. Together, they have been examining the anomaly using new methods and technology. While Asberg stopped short of making any direct claims, his careful phrasing implied that the pair may have found something unexpected. The vague nature of his message has left many people waiting eagerly for more information. Following the announcement, social media platforms quickly filled with speculation. Longtime followers of the Baltic Sea anomaly noticed that Asberg's reaction was not one of fear but of genuine astonishment. Many commented that if someone as cautious and experienced as him was this moved, then whatever he found must be truly remarkable. Others said that his silence spoke volumes. Around the same period, a scientific group led by marine researcher Dr. Michael Sohn launched a new initiative to study the anomaly with full transparency. Their aim was simple: to apply rigorous science, ensure data integrity, and share results with the public once analyses were complete. For years, the Baltic anomaly had been wrapped in speculation and mystery. But now, with newer methods and open access, researchers hope to finally replace rumor with evidence. Technological progress had also changed the game. Since 2011, sonar and imaging systems had advanced dramatically. With new 3D modeling tools, scientists could now generate detailed maps of the object. Maps so precise they revealed textures, ridges, and patterns that earlier scans had completely missed. These modern methods didn't disturb the site. There was no drilling or excavation. Instead, every detail was captured virtually, preserving the structure exactly as it lay under the sea. The latest expedition relied on autonomous underwater vehicles, or AUVs, robotic submarines equipped with the most advanced multi-beam sonar systems available. These machines could stay submerged for hours, gliding silently through the cold Baltic waters, capturing layer after layer of data. Human divers could never match that level of precision or endurance. When the processed data came back, the results were surprising. What earlier scans had shown as smooth, uniform surfaces now appeared intricate up close. The AUV's imaging revealed fine patterns, grooves, and geometric alignments etched across parts of the structure. Some features looked deliberate, as though they had been shaped by design rather than erosion. In addition to high-resolution mapping, researchers collected sediment samples from the area around the anomaly. These samples were sent to specialized laboratories for chemical and mineral analysis. Though the full results were still pending, preliminary findings suggested the presence of metallic compounds not typical of the surrounding seabed. That discovery raised more questions than it answered. Still, speculation about what the Baltic Sea anomaly might be never truly stopped, but the new findings gave old theories fresh momentum. Scientists and independent researchers proposed explanations that ranged from the geological to the extraordinary. Speculations on the origin of the Baltic Sea anomaly. The most conventional view remained the natural formation theory. According to this explanation, the anomaly could be a unique geological structure shaped thousands of years ago by glacial activity. During the last ice age, massive ice sheets carved deep channels into what would later become the Baltic Sea. Under rare conditions, they could have produced unusual geometric patterns that looked artificial when viewed through sonar. Critics of this theory, however, pointed out the object's symmetry and sharp angles, which didn't resemble known glacial formations. Others revived the ancient civilization theory. They suggested the structure might date back to a time when sea levels were much lower. If an ancient society once occupied that region, the anomaly could have been built on dry land and later submerged as the waters rose. The long, runway-like feature leading up to it seemed to support this idea. Some people even connect it to the legend of Atlantis, imagining it as a piece of a lost underwater city. Others believe it could be a megalithic structure, something like a submerged version of Stonehenge. Around the world, there are other underwater discoveries that raise similar questions. The Yonaguni Monument off the coast of Japan, for example, looks like an enormous staircase carved into stone. Many who have seen it say it appears too geometric to be natural. Still, others think the Baltic anomaly could be something more modern. Some compare its circular shape to the Russian warship Novgorod, which was built in the late 1800s. A few even bring up stories of the Hanebu, the so-called Nazi flying saucer rumored to have crashed during World War II. There are also simpler explanations, like the theory that it might be a concrete foundation for a lighthouse or a giant industrial cable drum. But lighthouses are usually built in shallower waters, and the largest cable drums ever made are only about half the size of this mysterious object. Then there was the crashed aircraft theory. Because of its disc-like shape and what appeared to be a path stretching toward it, some believed it could be the remains of a large vehicle, possibly even of unknown origin. Reports from early Ocean X divers who claimed that their electronic equipment malfunctioned near the site only added to the speculation that some kind of energy field might still linger there. A few theorists went even further, proposing the underwater base theory. They argued that the object's elevated position and geometric consistency could indicate a structure built intentionally for use beneath the water. Whether by ancient humans, a lost civilization, or something else entirely, the anomaly's design seemed to suggest function as much as form. Whatever the truth turned out to be, the renewed study of the Baltic Sea anomaly carried a larger message. It reminded scientists how little humanity still knew about the oceans. Nearly 70% of the planet's surface lay underwater, yet less than 5% had been thoroughly explored. The deep sea remained one of Earth's last great frontiers, a place where human technology had barely begun to reach. Only 2 manned expeditions had ever reached the deepest known point on Earth, the Mariana Trench, one in 1960 and another in 2012, when filmmaker James Cameron descended alone in his submersible. In contrast, the surface of the Moon had been visited by 12 astronauts. That comparison put things in perspective. The endless possibilities of AI search. However, researchers are explaining that artificial intelligence is changing how we explore the ocean. With machine learning, computers can now study massive amounts of sonar data, detect patterns across different sites, and link discoveries that human eyes might overlook. As scanning and analysis tools become more advanced, scientists believe we may soon uncover mysteries of the deep that have stayed hidden for centuries. The investigation into the Baltic Sea anomaly, for example, is still ongoing. Teams of researchers continue to use a combination of multi-beam sonar, 3D modeling, and AI analysis to build a clearer picture of the structure beneath the sea. Each new scan adds more detail, and each round of AI analysis reveals patterns that were invisible before. Step by step, they are getting closer to understanding what really lies beneath those cold Baltic waters. Unlike many discoveries that end up locked away in technical papers, the teams studying the anomaly have committed to sharing their findings with the public. This openness means that when they finally uncover the truth, everyone will be able to see it. The hope is that their work will not only explain the object's origin, but also deepen our understanding of the ocean's history, and perhaps even reveal something unexpected about our planet's past. Still, scientists have not been able to explain why or how the Baltic Sea anomaly affects electronic devices. Ordinary rock formations do not generate electromagnetic fields strong enough to disrupt modern electronics. While some researchers think the object might contain metallic compounds or rare earth elements that could be responsible, others remain cautious, suggesting that more data is needed before drawing conclusions. What makes it more curious is that similar disturbances have been documented at other mysterious underwater sites across the world. This raises the question, could there be a link between these locations? Could we be looking at a network of unknown structures hidden across the ocean floor? The Baltic Sea anomaly in that sense may be just one piece of a much larger puzzle. As technology continues to evolve, and as AI helps scientists connect the dots between these deep-sea discoveries, we may be on the verge of understanding something far greater than anyone imagined. Other anomalies that can solve the Baltic Sea puzzle. Researchers have even explained that off the coast of Japan lies the Yonaguni Monument, a massive underwater formation with sharp angles and geometric shapes. Some scientists believe it could be evidence of an ancient civilization. Like the Baltic Sea anomaly, it rests quietly on the ocean floor, showing patterns and features that seem too deliberate to be the result of natural forces alone. In the Mediterranean, sonar mapping has also revealed circular structures that look strikingly similar to the Baltic Formation. These discoveries are spread across different parts of the world, yet they share common characteristics that challenge what scientists currently understand about geology and human history. With the help of artificial intelligence, researchers can now study these sites in ways that were never possible before. Machine learning systems can compare their shapes, patterns, and alignments, finding subtle connections that the human eye might miss. The results suggest that these structures may not be isolated occurrences. If they share a common origin, it could mean that something significant, perhaps even global, happened in Earth's distant past. As AI-assisted mapping expands to cover more of the ocean floor, more of these strange formations are being discovered. The deeper and wider the scans go, the more evidence emerges that the seafloor still holds countless mysteries waiting to be uncovered. The theory with the most traction is still that the Baltic Sea anomaly could be a remnant of an advanced ancient civilization that existed long before recorded history. This idea, once dismissed as fantasy, now seems more plausible when viewed through the lens of geological history. AI analysis of the anomaly's features also seems to support this theory. The object's geometric precision, symmetrical shapes, and organized layout suggest intentional construction. Around the world, new archaeological findings continue to show that humans were capable of advanced engineering far earlier than previously believed. This has led researchers to wonder whether the Baltic Sea anomaly could be one of the most striking examples yet of ancient ingenuity. If that turns out to be true, then it may only be the beginning. There could be more submerged structures across the oceans, hidden records of civilizations that once thrived on land we no longer see. As technology improves, researchers expect to find more anomalies like this one, each new discovery pushing us to rethink what we know about the planet's past. What else do you think might be hiding deep inside our ocean beyond the Baltic Sea anomaly? Let's hear from you in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.